3, 2, 1, mark.
And welcome to Down the Rabbit Hole.
Oh, yeah.
A podcast brought to you by Justis.
Mm-hmm.
And if you haven't noticed, it's just me and Cody again this week.
Yeah.
Yeah, the other two, they have kind of new work schedules. They're still trying to get dialed in and that kind of thing. So,
Yeah.
And you know, I think the podcast is more of me and Cody's passion anyway. So I think you can always count on us being here doing the podcast, and it might not always be them. They're really busy and that kind of thing, but this is something me and you are really passionate for.
Oh, yeah.
And it's kind of a project me and you started. So you can always at least count on us two to be here. Anyway, today we have a pretty cool subject.
Oh, yeah.
So, I don't know if those of you who didn't listen to the last couple ones, we mentioned that we are going to be doing one topic now. One topic per podcast.
Yep.
We used to do 3 topics per podcast, but that was just, we were squeezing so much into so little time, squeezing a lot into a little bit of time.
Yeah,
and
for 3 different
Yeah, we had to make sure we were transitioning to each topic and giving each one enough time, and that kind of sucked, and it felt like anything we were talking about, we weren't doing it justice. And then, really, like, we're just running out of ideas faster to talk about, you know?
Definitely. We always find ourselves wanting to talk about the different things more.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And this way, you know, we have lots of time to go off on our little tangents and rabbit holes.
Oh, yeah. Like, last week was a lot of fun being able to just go off and not worry about it taking up too much time.
Yeah. Last week, we talked about our favorite TV shows.
Yeah.
So, today, I want to talk about something that I've been obsessing over. I've been watching so many videos on YouTube, looking at things on Google, and I guess the best way to phrase this is, I believe with new evidence that's been brought forward that ancient humans and civilization go back way longer than our history books taught us in school. Do you know what I mean?
I know what you mean, yeah.
So I think human history, more like advanced culture, goes back a lot longer than we were told.
Mm-hmm.
So, for example, of what I'm saying, we looked at this earlier. What do our history books say about the ancient Egyptians and when their empire or culture started?
So they say the first year on the Egyptian calendar is about 4,200 BC, which is before the Common Era.
All right. And what were humans doing around that time? So the Egyptians this is what, you know, our history books and things like that say.
So looking at like
the Egyptians were just getting their thing started, right?
Yeah, like 4,200 BC. It's like right around the time where they started developing copper and bronze.
The Bronze Age.
Yeah, the Bronze Age.
Beginning of the Bronze Age.
That's the first year on the Egyptian calendar.
And so that's the accepted time. What were other cultures doing around that time? Like the Mayans, I think they were around that time too, right?
Yeah, the Mayans were a little bit later, it looks like. About 1,000 years later in like 3000 BC. That's the first date on the Mayan calendar. But the things with those numbers is like it's the first date on the calendar. So that means the civilization was happening a bit before that. Right. It's just that's when the civilization got to the point of using a calendar and telling the time.
Right. So that's the accepted timeline that we're all taught, right? But here's the little trippy thing. There's the Sphinx, right, in Egypt. The Sphinx, for those of you who don't know, is the figure in front of the pyramids that is part lion, part man. It has the body of a lion and the head of a man. It's called the Sphinx. And what people are noticing, like names like Graham Hancock and I can't think of the other gentleman's name.
Robert Schoch. I don't know how to pronounce his last name, but it's Schoch. He's a geologist.
Yeah, they are noticing that there's water erosion around the Sphinx that age it much older than
Yeah, because the age in the pyramids, they're dated at like 2500 BC.
Right.
So that means the Egyptian culture and civilization was around for about 2,000 years before they built the Sphinx.
That's
according to this. Time. That's a lot of time.
So if we and you're saying that's with the water erosion?
No, that's normal water. That's this normal. The normal like history books
accepted
timeline. It's 2500. But the water erosion with the stones around the Sphinx,
right?
Because the specific water erosion, it isn't from like the Nile's flooding, rising up the Nile River, flooding and rising and lowering. It's not water erosion from that. It's specifically from very, very, very heavy rainfall. The kind of rainfall that wouldn't be on the Sphinx around that time period.
Right. So that's where they're getting the new date from, which is
10,000 BC, which is the end of the Stone Age, actually, and also it lines up with the end of the last Ice Age.
So that's crazy.
Yeah, because how that happened, it's like the Younger Dryas event.
So that would mean that the Sphinx would have had to be built even before then.
Yeah, it would have to be
just when weathering started to show up.
Yeah.
So
because
that changes everything.
The Younger Dryas event, like the end of the last Ice Age, what it was is the ice sheets covering North America evaporated into the atmosphere. They think it might be like some comet asteroid or meteor asteroid, something like that.
The great floods that all cultures talk about, and so this is what kind of wiped the planet clean.
Yeah. And I think we mentioned it during our Atlantis episode, possibly.
So correct me if I'm wrong. I'm going to kind of try to break this down into easier terms to understand.
Mm-hmm.
So this one timeline is accepted, but with this new evidence that's been brought forward, it's telling us that the Sphinx were created in a time where humans were just coming out of caves and just starting to make pottery.
Yeah, pottery, actually, let me take a look here for you. So I have like a human timeline. And like the pottery is actually one of the landmarks they use when talking about history and prehistory and stuff.
Makes sense.
It's one of the points that come up a lot in the classification of when things are. Yeah. Like pre-pottery or post-pottery. Stuff like that. Actually, no, it'd be 8,000 years after clay pottery is created. Would be when the new hypothesis age would be. So they've had about 8,000 years of clay pottery, and then it would be...
And things like building of that nature, like the giant blocks they used to make, I think it's the Temple of the Sphinx.
Yeah.
Are... just like the pyramids, unimaginably huge.
Oh yeah, massive.
And so these are things that take. These are skills that are learned, that are brought down through the generations. And, you know what I mean? So it's not like these cavemen popped out of the Ice Age and built a Sphinx. There had to, in my opinion, have been a longer period of humans and passing these traits down generation by generation to even get to that point.
Exactly. And something interesting too is like we actually see there's evidence of giant structures around the new hypothesis date. So it's like not completely unimaginable that it would be built around that time. It's
so what you're saying, the name of the structure there's proof in other places
of structures being built at 10,000 BC.
And correct me if I'm wrong too, but I think most I guess you would say scientists they refer to these people back then as hunter-gatherers, right? Like that's the accepted timeline. Is back then we were still hunter-gatherers. We didn't have agriculture around 10,000 BC is what I'm saying. We didn't have agriculture. We were just simple hunter-gatherer types. And what you're saying right now is not only does the Sphinx show that maybe we were a bit more than hunter-gatherers at that time, but another civilization is showing that at that same time, a whole nother group of people were building megalithic structures.
And they might attribute it even to hunter-gatherers. Again, in that case is what they're saying. They're trying to put it onto the hunter-gatherers. And,
mainstream.
And the interesting thing is, so, okay, this other site I'm talking about is Göbekli Tepe.
Right.
And so...
Where is that?
It is in Turkey.
Okay.
So it's like let me bring up a little map. I have so many tabs open, I have to like find the right one. So it's like where you know how there's like Turkey and then it starts coming down to where like Saudi Arabia, Iraq, and Syria are. It's like kind of in that little crotch piece of the corner.
I can imagine that.
And it's like a little bit up from there. I think that's where it looks like where it's at. Or like a little bit to the east of that corner.
So it's near the what they call the cradle of civilization anyway, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
because that would be like Mesopotamia.
Right.
And so like the Sumerians. And so like the Sumerians started late though for when this Sphinx and everything would be built. It was...
See, that's really... Let's talk about that for a quick second. So, the Sumerians, those who don't know...
They started...
what we kind of refer to as one of the first...
Civilizations. That's why we call the Middle East the cradle of civilization.
They had the first writing. They had, I want to even say they had some type of political...
they were like the first laws, I think.
Mm-hmm.
They even had like the first they were the first to start like really recording their history through writing.
I don't know if you remember, but in high school we learned hardly anything about them.
Oh yeah, I don't think we really did.
It was more of a mention.
Like,
it was
and with all the standardized testing stuff, like we would barely not touch anything
less about that.
Yeah.
And so that's what's interesting is what we're saying now is that's what's accepted as the first civilization, and not even that crazy advanced. We're just writing things down and we're organizing each other.
And the date on that on here is only like
on Mesopotamia.
On the Sumerians, which is like it's the earliest known civilization in the region of Mesopotamia.
And that says that they started at what time?
4,500, which is only like 300 years before the Egyptians.
That's crazy. And so what we're saying is there's proof
of giant structures at 10,000 BC.
That's crazy.
And like, with the Sphinx data, that's still being questioned. That's not like a big theory. Like, people are talking about it. It is being questioned, but it's not like a big prevailing thing. But with this Göbekli Tepe
that's really crazy.
It is actually one that, like, it was 10,000 BC. That's for a fact. That's what they're saying. That's not the question anymore about it.
Do you know what we aged around that there to know what time period it came from?
I don't really know how they did that. Just through geophysical surveys, it says.
And so mainstream scientists are trying to say that these hunter-gatherer peoples, basically cavemen, built megalithic structures, and they don't want to call that advanced.
And the interesting case with Göbekli Tepe is that it wasn't even like a city that they lived in. It was something that they just came and visited every once in a while.
Almost like a temple.
Shows. They consider it a temple, but something interesting I'm seeing is because this was built around the time where like you had like the Natufian culture. Which is it's one of the cultures from the very end of the Stone Age and like getting into the next like Metal Age, which would be like Paleolithic, or it's like
let me ask you something crazy then. So would it be hard to believe that maybe humans started way before the Ice Age? Civilization?
This civilization starts before the Elder Dryas event. Or the Younger Dryas event, I mean.
Maybe ancient human civilization started way before the Ice Age, and we got a little bit advanced, started learning things, passing them down, building crazy structures, and then it all gets washed away. And human civilization basically has to start over in a lot of places. You know what I mean? And so to us, it looks like that's where human civilization started. But maybe it was a restart.
Yeah, exactly. And like, so even here, so this period, or this culture, the Natufian culture, is like has two periods. It starts from like 13,000 BC, which is before the Younger Dryas thing, before the Great Flood.
Okay.
And that is, this civilization is like in the Middle East, like around, I think, Israel.
Okay.
And so that like from 13,000 to like 10,000 BC is like the first period of it. And then the Younger Dryas event happens. And it's like 1,000 years of climatic change.
The whole Earth is just going crazy at that time.
At this point, this area, like nowadays the Middle East is like, it's all desert.
Right.
But before that, it was all like completely lush woodland.
Interesting.
Like how these hunter-gatherers survived was through wild oats that just grew everywhere and through hunting.
So it was like grasslands.
It was
like
grasslands.
Beautiful.
Yeah,
wow.
Grasslands and forests
in
the Middle East. Now, after the Younger Dryas event, after the Great Flood, it completely wrecked everything over there. There was it wasn't a flood there. It was a drought in that area.
A drought.
Yeah.
Interesting. So...
And that's how they survived. Like, that's how Mesopotamia is considered to a start, because with the way the rivers were in that area, it was like a safe haven from the drought.
I've heard
issues.
A cool theory about the pyramids that, they were built before the Great Flood, and they were built in preparation of the Great Flood to maybe preserve some type of knowledge or something, right? Because things like stone are the only things that survive great floods and time, right?
Oh yeah, because like
things
metal-y roads,
like
especially things like copper. Like this is the copper and bronze times,
and they even say us now, our civilization, everything will be to dust in less time than the Egyptians have been from now. You know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah.
So, what's going to be left of us? Things like the Hoover Dam. You know what I mean? Like, that's it. Like,
giant,
just like stone structures. Sorry, I spit a little. Stone structures that can withstand time and crazy climate changes and climate events.
Yeah.
So that really puts into perspective. We are, crazy advanced technologically speaking compared to our past brethren
that we know of.
That we know of, and it's all going to be wiped away way quicker than any of their stuff their stuff was. So we can't say with the absolute certainty that we know when civilization started. We can't say that because there's all these things, all these red flags are being raised. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And to me, these red flags make things make more sense. You know what I mean? Like the whole pyramid thing. When is the accepted date that they started building the pyramids? I want to know that.
I don't know a start date. Let me check. Let me Google when did they start building the pyramids.
Because I feel like if they're saying Egypt started when it did, but that's basically Stone Age, like people making pyramids too. That they're saying.
Yeah. Well, no, that's after. No, that's 2,630. That would be going. I think that would already be in the Bronze and Copper Age, the Copper and Bronze Age. Yeah, because Copper and Bronze started in 4,200 BC.
And that's what they were cutting these big old blocks of stones out of with bronze.
That's what they. I guess. Yeah, copper or bronze.
Interesting.
But why I got into like the Natufian civilization is because they actually traded with a culture that was in the Nile, and this would be pre-Egyptian, so it's not really the Egyptian culture. It'd be like the predecessors of the Egyptian culture.
Okay.
They have evidence of like them trading things that would be like from the Nile region. And so what makes me think is like maybe Göbekli Tepe wasn't like some temple. Maybe it was, if you had these different civilizations that were smart enough to know that long distance trade with each other. Who's to say that there aren't like, it wasn't a trade hub between different things in the Middle Eastern area.
I love that theory.
And it's just because it was so big and such a big gathering point, it was built to last back then, all built out of stone. It's all underground. It's all underground caves, like in layers.
Have you heard there's similar theories about Stonehenge?
Really?
Check for me when Stonehenge is said to be built.
The construction starts in 2400 BC. So that'd be like 200 years after the pyramids, like traditionally, are said to have started.
That's crazy. They're trying to say that the pyramids were built before Stonehenge?
Yeah.
Dude, there had to have been a restart of civilization. How did we go from being able to build pyramids to only like just lifting rocks up? You know what I mean?
Well, it was two different independent cultures.
Well, I understand that, but what I mean is, like, how did all of that knowledge get lost?
Well, it's because something interesting is just about the time frames of like things moving around. So like, if you look at a map of human migration, it starts at like 200 or 300,000 years ago in Africa.
Okay.
That's like when humans started, like even before them mixing with Neanderthals. I'm talking that early on.
Okay.
This is 200 to 300,000 years ago in Africa. And then about 100,000 years ago, they started moving up to the Middle East.
Right.
And then it slowly moved out like in different time frames. So going into Europe was like 40 or 50,000 years ago. So there's that big time gap of like 60,000 years where we're still evolving. And about 50,000 years ago is when we started like meeting up with the Neanderthals, I guess.
And
like when we start going from Africa to the Middle East is when they start mixing. And then about 40,000 years ago, we start moving like into Upper Asia, and that's when we mixed with the Denisovans, which is another like humanoid, like it's another human species.
Oh, wow. Like the Neanderthals.
Yeah, like how there's like Neanderthals, there's also Denisovans. I think there's multiple
Anunnaki.
Just kidding. No, Anunnaki are from a different planet.
Yeah. They're a whole nother species. What was so I'm sorry, going back to Stonehenge, I was just tripping out on the fact that the pyramids were built before Stonehenge. It's just that
It is trippy.
I guess that's known, but it's just not something like I think about, you know what I mean? And that's crazy to put together in my head. But the reason I brought Stonehenge up is because you mentioned a trade port for different cultures. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think they found like different items buried around Stonehenge from different cultures.
Really?
Yeah, and they figured this might have been like a spot of trade. And the way they found bodies buried underneath Stonehenge was very interesting too. And I want to say that it even seemed like those bodies were from different spots. From like from far, far away. So I think you're right that maybe, our ancient ancestors understood the value of trade from great distance, and they made these spots megalithic and strong and worthy of time.
Let me look here, because it even says here, like, they, let me see. They actually, the Natufians had an industry, almost, of making short blades. So it makes you wonder if it's almost like that's what the trade that their culture specialized in. Right. And that's what they used to trade to the other cultures. They understood that, hey, I can make this thing that all the other people want. And if they want it, they'll give me something I want.
We weren't always fighting each other, man.
Yeah, and I think that is when we make the greatest
that's when we started learning and we started building crazy things
like
and started sharing knowledge. And
this culture also has the oldest known depiction of a couple having sex, known as the Ein Sakri lovers, I think it'd be pronounced.
I'm sorry, do you mind just turning my volume down a hair on my headphones?
Oh, I don't mind at all. That cool?
Thank you, yeah.
All right. Yeah, the oldest known depiction of a couple having sex. Yeah. And let me see. Yeah, they have like shellfish from the Nile Valley. And like they have things that they don't know where they came from. Oh. Even like malachite beads, which are like a special type of like mineral or rock or whatever. It's a copper kybnite mineral. Huh,
so in your opinion, why isn't any of this stuff taken seriously? To me, there's so much proof that like, oh yeah, our timelines are way off. But like, why doesn't anyone want to take it? Why people like me and you will probably get looked at as like conspiracy theorists for talking about this?
You know, it's what I think part of it is though, is it's almost like there's just not enough evidence of it yet for the hardcore skeptics, for the people who are like, show me the evidence. That's like, but
that's what I'm saying is the timeline they believe in, there's no hardcore evidence for either. What I'm saying is the numbers that they came up with are the same tactics that we're using to come up with our new numbers. If anything, I feel like the new numbers we're coming up with have stronger evidence. I wish I had specific examples.
Well, something I want to bring up with the pyramids, though, is I think some of the pyramids Egyptians did build. But I think, like, the Great Pyramid and the Sphinx, they didn't build. I might
agree with you on this.
But I think they built the other pyramids in the image of the Great Pyramid.
Yeah. This is just one crazy thing I believe in, or maybe not believe in, but I like to entertain the thought of, that what we know as the Egyptians that started in, when did you say, was it 3000?
Egyptians started like mid 4000 BC. 5000.
Those Egyptians that we know of with the hieroglyphics and all that, they did not build the pyramids. I think a culture before them built the pyramids. I think the Egyptians looked at the pyramids and were like, I wonder who built these, just as much as we are. And I know that's crazy, but there are zero hieroglyphics, I'm pretty sure, zero about the pyramids, or even how they were made or anything. I think the Egyptians didn't quite understand them almost as much as we don't understand them. You know what I mean? Like, they wrote down everything. They wrote down everything, and there's nothing about the pyramids.
Like, all of their monuments that they built was like every inch of it was covered in like hieroglyphics.
So they say that the pyramids were designed as tombs, right? That's what my textbook said. Yours too, probably. Yep. Freaking, why do all of the Egyptian tombs that we found mummies in, they're covered in artwork, right? Hieroglyphics and paintings, and there's all kinds of treasures in these tombs to help the pharaohs in the afterlife. There is not one hieroglyphic written inside the pyramids. There is no artwork on the wall inside pyramids. There has been 0 bodies ever found in the pyramids. 0 mummies, 0 bodies.
Yeah, they just find like sarcophaguses and stuff.
And no, those are hardly sarcophaguses, and those were not found in the pyramids. What you're thinking of was found underneath the pyramids, and they are huge. They are 12-foot boxes that are way too big for any human.
So are you saying all the pyramids or just the Great Pyramid?
The Great Pyramids.
Okay.
Those 3 main ones, I think.
Yeah, it's just the 3. Yeah, the 3 Giza pyramids.
The Giza pyramids.
Because there's like the Giza pyramid.
Specifically, are you wondering about?
No, I was just because I know in like some of the pyramids there are hieroglyphs, so that's why I was confused for a second. But you were just talking about because they have like more.
Which pyramids are there hieroglyphs?
Aren't there pyramids like in the Valley of the Kings, or is those are the Giza pyramids?
The Valley of the Kings is where all the tombs are, I believe, the actual tombs. The pyramids of Giza do not have hieroglyphics.
Okay. So so you're just talking about the pyramids of Giza. That's what I was confused in. One clarification.
I don't know much about all the other pyramids and those the things that were built after that. Mm-hmm. But who knows? I don't even know. Maybe those pyramids have hieroglyphs in them? Do we know that? The ones in, you said, the Valley of the Kings?
Yeah, because so like the pyramids of Giza and the Nile Delta they're tied to the Old Kingdom of Egypt.
Yes.
But
or what we call the Old Kingdom.
Yeah, and then but like the Valley of the Kings is like the New Kingdom.
Right. So those are the Egyptians that we know and love that we hear about in high school.
Yeah.
More that culture. So then back to what I was saying, there's no bodies, there's no hieroglyphs found in these pyramids. If you look inside them, they look almost industrial-like. There's all these shafts going out, directions pointing to the stars. These shafts are like...
they're like that
only
big.
Like maybe
they're like
a foot or two.
They're like air
duct
size.
Yeah. What were those designed for? And they're going like all the way through.
Crazy angle, and then we see a random door with copper
you know
rings in it.
Some of the scientists or the Egyptologists speculate, those are symbolic shafts for the soul, the spirit of the pharaoh to escape from. Mm-hmm. What? That makes no sense. That makes no... And why would they have a tradition of leaving them with treasure and shit? Are they supposed to fit all their treasure through the holes, or is that all symbolic too? I think if it was something symbolic, they wouldn't go through all the trouble of building the intricate shafts. You know what I mean?
It would have to be like something like they actually believe a spirit comes out.
I think this is going to sound crazy and conspiracy theorist, but I think the pyramids were used for something more industrial than tombs. Think about this too. There's evidence that there was doors that could open and close. To what purpose would they need to go in and out of a tomb?
Yeah.
The other tombs weren't built like that.
Because they were all sealed.
Yeah, you're not supposed to go in and out of a tomb. It's supposed to be sealed.
Yeah.
Unless it's something industrial. I'm not saying that this thing had smoke clouds billowing out of it, and was a factory or anything like that.
But it wasn't a tomb.
Yeah, I think it had a very specific use.
And like they even found there's like a void spot that they don't know if it's a chamber or not, but they think it's another
above
chamber
the king's
in there.
Chamber, right?
It's like, well, I think it's like sort of. There's the king's chamber, and there's this like special slant chamber leading up. It's like above that slant chamber.
I see. I know what you mean.
So it's kind of like diagonal to the king's chamber.
Off of
Yeah, man. Giza pyramid, man.
Yeah, they tripped me out. When I heard that thing about no hieroglyphics and no bodies, that's what really started to change my opinions on things.
And you said the sarcophagus was like giant?
Oh yeah,
right?
Okay, so that's another
thing.
The sarcophaguses weren't, or sarcophagi. The sarcophagi were not even found inside the pyramid. They're underneath the pyramid, right?
Like a lake.
Yeah. And these are hardly sarcophagi. They are 12 feet long, I believe, if I'm remembering correctly.
But wasn't there like one that was massive?
That's
too?
when it gets crazy, bro. So you go down, right, and these shafts are built really crazy, and then there's this room with these 12-foot sarcophagi up against the wall in these little chambers. It looks like, and then you go down deeper, and there's this pool of water, and in the middle of the pool of water is this giant black sarcophagus looking box that's like 12 feet big.
Like, wasn't it actually even like it wouldn't have been able to get through the doors kind of thing too?
Yeah,
I think I remember that being. I remember seeing that somewhere.
What's interesting is before this was discovered, I can't remember who, but there was a Greek historian that said, I think it was a Greek historian that said that there's a lake underneath the pyramids, and that the great god Osiris, his tomb is under there. And Osiris, was said to be a giant, a god. Some people say an alien, if you want to get really crazy, right? Mm-hmm. So imagine Osiris, this 12-foot alien god, right? He's buried underneath the pyramids, surrounded by a lake. Everyone's like, nah, you're freaking crazy. I don't know when it was discovered, but later on, oh no, they're discovering these shafts. Oh no, there's this pool of water, and in the middle of it is a giant sarcophagus. and everyone said that the sarcophagus was empty. But there's a 12-foot giant sarcophagus where someone said that there was going to be a giant alien god in.
Yeah.
That's a lot of things
crazy.
that, like, line up weird, you know?
Yeah.
I wish I had more factual evidence to talk about these things.
Yeah,
but...
I'm going to try to find the giant sarcophagus.
That's what I'm saying, man. Like, I think these pyramids were built before the Younger Dryas event. And I think they were built for a very specific reason. Maybe not industrial, maybe a library. Almost a time capsule to withstand time. And, you know, maybe maybe all the information that was kept in the pyramids has been stripped away and stolen over the years and raided. Or maybe we just haven't earned the knowledge that the pyramids have to offer yet.
Yeah, it's just it's a giant puzzle box for us, and we have to figure out how to get inside.
Exactly.
I'm trying to find... It's a little bit hard, because there's so much stuff about Egypt online.
Yeah, there is.
You know?
A lot of conspiracies, too.
Yeah, you have to be very picky and choosy as you go through things.
I'm sorry, is it still recording over there?
Yes, it is.
Perfect.
We're at 38 minutes. Wow.
What? Already? Damn. This is a good subject.
Yeah. And, you know, on the things about, like, talking about the alien gods and stuff, like the Anunnaki.
Yeah.
That's really interesting, going back to the Sumerians.
Yeah, dude. Like, you want to get really crazy, you know, I brought up Osiris being a 12-foot god. There's, you know, some people believe that he was one of the Anunnaki gods.
Yeah.
Some people believe that he might have even been Enki.
No, I thought Enki was supposed to have been Thoth.
Thoth?
Thoth.
Oh, maybe that's what I'm thinking of. Maybe.
I think that's something I've seen.
Because that does sound better, because I think Enki, for those who don't know, was the Sumerian god who kind of
it is like traditionally, not going into like the ancient alien theories. Mm-hmm. Traditionally, it's the Sumerian god of water, knowledge, mischief, crafts, and creation.
Right.
And he even goes on to be known in Akkadian and Babylonian mythology. And Akkadian is like the early Semitic peoples.
That's very interesting that he goes there too. So, isn't Osiris also the same person as Orion?
You know what? Let me see.
I don't know if that's completely crazy or not, but I want to say that the Orion constellation is as much Osiris as it is Orion. Or maybe I'm saying that because their names sound familiar.
I think that's something Graham Hancock gets into. Is Osiris really Orion?
Okay, maybe that's where I heard it from then. Because
it's originally put forward in 1983, the Orion correlation theory.
Oh, okay, so it's a theory. That's interesting. Yeah, it's interesting.
Oh, because there is a similar... there's like a connection between the layout of the three main stars in Orion's belt and the layout of the three main pyramids in the Giza complex.
Yeah.
And it's trippy just to think about the Pyramid of Giza, how mathematically on point it is. It is like in the exact center of the geographical landmass of the Earth.
That's crazy.
Like it's in the middle point of like the widest point vertically and horizontally.
That's insane.
As well as being like pointing exactly true north. And all of those shafts that we were talking about before,
right?
They're perfectly lined up with constellations in the sky.
Symbolic my ass. Those were not symbolic shafts. Those, I think they had use. See, it's just the thing is, I don't think people understand the magnitude of the pyramids.
And yeah, Osiris, the constellation Orion was like the sky image of Osiris, I guess, to the Egyptians.
Oh.
Well, that's something Graham Hancock and this theory in general is trying to correlate.
Okay, so it's a theory.
It's a theory, yeah. But the thing is with science, everything is theories. It just some theories get to the point of like 99.9% approval. You know what I mean? Because all science is peer review. That is like the basics of science is duplication of testing and peer review.
Yeah. So, they looked at a lot of other people in history crazy for thinking of crazy things that changed the scientific community. So, people like Graham Hancock might be looked at right now like, you guys are crazy. Mm-hmm. Human history is this and that. But, I don't know, man. Our kids might be looking at Graham Hancock as one of the pioneers of the true timeline. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, hopefully. I really hope...
Oh, excuse me. Because, things like that happen in other fields where it's like, I think, like, especially in physics.
Yeah.
There are people, I can't remember the exact guy's name, but there's a famous story of, like, someone who, like, he was straight up ridiculed for, like, a thing he was, like, theorizing. Mm-hmm. Then, like, 10 years later, he was getting a Nobel Prize for it.
That's crazy. But, I think it's things like this, like me and you were talking about it. It's going to take people talking about it and being interested. I think in today's world, a lot of people don't care, unfortunately.
What it is someone has to ask the question first before we can find the answer. And so I think that's one of the big things about, like, with this theory we're talking about, is it's like, right now it's at the point where it's getting people to ask the questions and look for the more evidence that everyone is asking for.
Yeah.
We're now at a point where now we're diving into this avenue finally. Mm-hmm. And seeing what truths we can find here.
Like, who cares? Like, it's just a timeline. Who cares when or what happened? Well, I think it matters so greatly. I mean, think about if that's how we treated present time. Like, who cares what the people in the future are going to think of us? You know what I mean? I think we owe it to our ancestors and we owe it to each other to know what really happened back then and to know how we got here.
Yeah.
We owe it to them. We owe it to our ancestors. Life is so precious. We haven't found any other form of life in the universe yet. Mm-hmm. For all we know, we could be the only conscious things in this universe saying, what the hell am I? And we owe our past the respect to understand what they went through and the amazing things that they accomplished. We can't sit here saying our 200 years of culture have been the epitome of human civilization.
Yeah, we can't say we're at the peak because back then they thought they were at the peak.
Exactly, that's what people understand. Back then, those people were living in present time. That was their present time.
Yeah.
They
were walking into Göbekli Tepe at 10,000 BC saying, what a marvel this is. We will never top this.
Yeah, exactly. That's what people don't understand. Like, I feel like people just imagine these dumb people who have no ambition, who are just being told things by their leaders and just acting. No, people were artists back then. People were leaders back then. People were asking questions back then.
Yeah, that's why, like, something I like more than, like, the ancient alien theories and stuff like that is it's almost like, because there's multiple cultures who have said there's been, like, these multiple disasters, like the floods, that reset civilization, and then we start anew until the next disaster, and it's like, we don't know the history before the last disaster. But what if, like, the gods that we attribute is the people from the last disaster that survived over
and started a new civilization.
Kickstarted the next thing to keep going.
Yeah. The gods and kings of our past
they were the advanced humans of the last civilization, and they basically, like, the Younger Dryas event happened.
Right.
Great flooding across the world, coupled with great droughts in other parts of the world.
Everything gets wiped away.
Yeah, just complete flip-flop of the climate.
But then you have these doomsday survivors.
Yeah,
the past.
you have like that's another theory with like Göbekli Tepe. Some people talk about is like if there was a big event like that, that's where everyone would go. Is a big underground structure bunker like that.
A bunker.
Because like even in things like one of Robert Schoch's theories is it was a solar event. So it was like, solar radiation came, like, because that happens with the sun, is it has outbursts at times. And that's like a recorded fact that happens. And so one of the theories is that it was an event like that of like unprecedented proportion.
Can I ask you your personal opinion? Off the evidence you've researched and that kind of thing, are you more behind a comet impact creating the Younger Dryas event, or do you lean more towards a solar event is what caused the ice sheets to melt?
Hearing Robert Schoch speak on it, I think it definitely has put me in the solar event camp.
Yeah.
But if there was something like evidence of a crater or something there is like that, really?
Yeah, I think.
Okay, so I'd have to look into that a bit more, but I
think Graham Hancock and the guy who wrote one of his books with him, I think they have a theory of where the crater is.
Okay, because I would say I'm not firmly in one camp, but I'm leaning more to the solar event side.
See, I'm kind of the opposite. I believed in the solar thing first, and now I kind of want to go more towards the comet thing.
Okay.
Just because, I guess I could imagine a solar event causing apocalyptic type events, but I just think there would be more proof for that. You know what I mean? Like, and even, I don't know, I think it makes more sense of a comet coming down and creating all that dramatic, those dramatic climate changes than something like a solar flare, because they predict solar flares that will happen nowadays. It'll like destroy our power grid and that kind of thing. But like, I don't know I guess it could, do crazy climate change. I just haven't been convinced yet, I guess, that it was a solar event. It's hard for me to picture, lightning storms everywhere.
Yeah, because that's what they say it would be like if it was the solar event. Is it would be just thunder raining down.
And that's hard for me to imagine almost destroying the world. I can imagine that happening.
Well, because what it is what I think what the theory is though on that is that's not what destroyed the world. That is the thing that all that just it'd be like they describe it as lightning just constantly striking everywhere.
Right.
That is what melted the North American ice sheets.
Is the lightning.
Is that sudden outburst storm that it created.
Yeah, and see, I could see
that. So that instantly, I don't know about instantly, but that basically vaporized the North American ice sheets it would basically vaporize it into the atmosphere. And something like a comet strike or an asteroid strike would cause the same phenomenon, where it would vaporize the North American ice sheet into the atmosphere,
and even
causing
just aside from
intense
vaporization,
rains.
Like just giant ice sheets being like falling into the ocean and raising sea levels and that kind of thing. You know what I mean? And earthquakes from the initial impact. And then if it's correct me if I'm wrong, but if it's a big enough explosion, it can affect the climate by almost covering the sun.
Well, if it's stuff like if it was soot,
that
and ash kind of stuff, that can. But that usually comes into more with volcanic eruptions.
Oh yeah, you're right. Yeah.
Because like with the asteroid strike kind of thing, is like the burning up would be a lot of it. Like the burning up that would create ash. Like in this case, since it'd be hitting the ice sheets. The ash creation would only be from the object itself in the atmosphere. So, depending on the size of it wouldn't be enough to block out the sun. I pictured
like a big old movie scene comment, like hitting the Earth, and then there's like this nuclear-looking explosion that just explodes like shrapnel of fiery badness all across the earth. That's the way I picture it. But yeah, that obviously would be a crazy huge asteroid that would cause something like that.
Yeah, but even with like the comet and asteroid theory, they say it would be like the vaporization of the ice sheets.
Yeah,
because it would create the big cloud cover that rains and creates the floods, and
that water's got to go somewhere.
And that would explain the intense downfall that would have affected the Great Sphinx if it was built before the flood. You know, you have it'd be like a relatively short period of like ungodly rainfall kind of deal.
Yeah. You know, I don't know. I've always been for the solar idea. I like the comet idea. It intrigues me, but I can't say that I'm completely swayed in either direction yet.
Yeah.
In fact, I would even be open to other theories. You know what I mean? And that kind of thing. Just because we don't have enough evidence to say for sure for either thing, so I'm like, okay, you know, yeah, that sounds good, but yeah, I see your point there. But I wonder what other theories we could come up with of what shook the earth in such a way that it just wiped everything clean.
And you know, with all this stuff about like exploring the possibilities, like a good analogy could be would be like trying to walk out on ice. Because it's like you have to slowly kind of tap your foot down every once in a while. Be like, you know, that's you exploring and just asking the questions. Be like, okay, oh, that's actually solid there. Okay, so we can try going this way. And you're like, oh, okay, that's weak. Okay, we found something here. And it's just you slowly chip away at it until you find the right path.
Yeah.
And there's multiple branching paths that you find that are strong. And you just have to find which one people consider the strongest.
Yeah.
And that's how it all is decided about like what's considered fact.
Well, I'm happy
science-wise most of the time.
I'm happy we looped back around to the Younger Dryas event because that's kind of the marker. And that's kind of the thing that in my eyes triggered all of this for me. You know what I mean? Is hearing about this debate with the Younger Dryas. It's like, oh, what's that? And then there's all these things about civilization maybe being much older than it originally was.
Yeah, because I mean, there's hundreds of thousands of years of humans.
Yeah. That's crazy, man. All those lives, all those memories, all those people, they were as real as me and you. And they lived lives as important and as real as me and you.
They just, because, you know, it's like, it's about you have to start somewhere to build up the slow understanding. And like, you know, one of the really interesting things is like how much language has advanced humans.
Oh yeah. Communication
was an insane tool for us.
And then we wrote it down.
Because it's like
to preserve it.
Because before communication, it was like you'd go out to hunt. You're a caveman. Right. And you see... Like, okay, I'm actually going to tell a story I heard from a communications professor I had.
Oh, okay.
In the short time I was in college. So basically, like, imagine you are a caveman.
Okay.
Back before, like, you know, think hundreds, thousands of years ago in Africa.
Okay.
And you see, basically, a hyena.
Okay.
This is your first time seeing it. You just see this hyena thing, and
if this is my first time, I'd probably be scared shitless.
It attacks your arm.
Oh, of course it does.
You know, but you get away from it.
Okay.
And you get back to your let's call it a village here. I don't know if you would even be able to say village, but you get back to your group, your tribe, yeah.
Okay.
And you basically, I found there was this thing. Like you just point to your arm. There is this thing. It's crazy. Like they don't understand the world yet.
And I wouldn't have words to communicate that.
Yeah, you're just like
pointing at my arm, making like chomping motions with my hands.
And it's like you just kind of like they get to the point where it's like they understand that like, okay, we have different sounds we can produce. So we can be like, okay, the thing that got my arm has a specific sound. They start seeing it more and they attribute like, okay, that thing is it's just like some random sound, just like arg.
Yeah.
That is now the word for hyena in their culture.
Arg.
And to them,
an arg attack.
It means enemy.
Oh yeah. Oh, see, that's a good point. So So the next week, some other guy comes. He's missing an arm, and they're like, "You got arg!"
Yeah, and so it's like arg, and so it's that's they see that they have like three things. They have the sight of the hyena, the word for it arg, and the meaning that it's an enemy.
Yeah.
But then they find a different tribe.
Okay.
And that tribe is like they're cooking something. Imagine that, and they're like, "Oh, what is that?" And they're basically just like, arg, And so now they have a different meaning. They're like, whoa, what? You mean it's not an enemy? It's not just an enemy. It's something we can eat for nourishment.
Mm-hmm. So then it's like, okay, well, maybe we need one word for danger and one word for this.
But that too, but it also makes us understand there's multiple meanings for the same one thing.
Right.
So that gives us the idea of the branching possibilities. Yeah. That's where we start thinking of that in that communication. It's like, okay, so we have this thing, arg, enemy, food.
Yeah.
Then they meet a third tribe. And they walk up and they see one right there next to the fire.
An arg?
And then they're like, watch out! There's a thing right there. He's going to get you guys.
Yeah.
Either that, or they're like, hey, let's kill that thing and let's eat it because it's food. Mm-hmm. But then they're like, no, don't kill it. This thing's our friend. It helps us kill other things. In exchange, we give it food. Then you have the first domestication of an animal.
That's interesting. That's a fun way to think about it.
And then now at this point, just from this one word, this is from this one communication they have about this arg, they have 3 different meanings of it now.
So are you saying what they're calling arg is the hyena?
Yeah, that's the word for the hyena. Because they need something to describe this phenomenon. Mm-hmm. And so they know when they yell
the
arg.
Animal.
Yeah.
Or the action it's
making.
Yeah,
no, because to them, the animal and the action is the same thing. That animal means they're getting attacked.
In the first scenario.
Yeah, in the first scenario. And it's like, as it each goes on, they find a new meaning with that same thing to realize there's 3 different meanings in just that one word.
Is there 3 different meanings in that one word, or is there...
Well, like, in the idea of what it is. Because at first, the only thing you see a hyena, your arm's coming off.
Right.
That's your only experience with it. That's the only thing that's been communicated to you about it.
Yeah, so then this isn't just language, then.
Yeah, this isn't just language. This is, like, the idea of meaning behind our, like, what we experience. Mm-hmm.
Can you imagine that, though, being that first tribe that walks up and, like, all you've known is a fucking wolf bit your buddy's arm off when you were kids, and you walk up to this other tribe, and they got, like, wolves sitting around their fire, and you're like, these dudes must be godly.
Yeah, they
tamed the arg.
Yeah, they have tamed the arg.
That'd be pretty freaking crazy.
Just imagine the enemies of the tribe that discovered fire.
They were nuclear, man.
Dude, no. Imagine what those tribes thought of the tribe that discovered fire.
No, I know those people.
Oh yeah,
looked at
they
them
were nuclear.
like they were nuclear.
Yeah.
Like they have some kind of crazy
insane
magical power.
It's like, I think I showed you a clip from Star Trek: The Next Generation.
Yeah.
Of them explaining them being on the ship
so
in space to like a person with medieval knowledge.
Yeah, that was actually really beautiful. And there's a lot of truth to that. The future generations are always gonna be unimaginable to us and almost seem like magic. Well, I don't know. A lot of people think we've hit that point where like there's not much more we can create. You know what I mean? That because you go back to the Stone Age and you show them a cell phone and you're a freaking wizard.
Yeah.
You're like
it's 50-50. All right. Either you're a wizard, they respect you.
Yeah.
You're a threat. Kill you.
So imagine today if someone from the future came back and they have like an iPhone 28.
The first thing that would happen is all the governments would create a plan if they needed to go against this godly being. Like, I'm not even kidding. That would happen because like all the countries.
No one would believe him. That's what
the
would
iPhone
really happen.
28.
Yeah. No one would believe. He's like, as of for the future, like our iPhones are like in our hand now. It's crazy. Like,
it's like they blink and there's
insane.
like a little hologram of like the iPhone screen, and you're just like looking like the Futurama episode. There's a Futurama. It's an iPhone.
Oh, interesting.
You get it?
Yeah. Well, see, Elon Musk thinks that that's really going to happen. We're going to be almost bionicle. You know what I mean? We're going to have our...
It'll be a merging of human and technology.
Yeah. Well, before we get too crazy into that...
Oh, because we've passed the hour mark at this point. Wow.
We've talked about crazy history. We've talked about what crazy future we might have.
Mm-hmm.
We discussed that ancient civilization, I would feel comfortable saying, probably goes back way quicker than it goes way longer than we assumed originally as a human race.
Because like I would be comfortable saying just like the numbers don't all match up. Yeah, is the best way to put it.
Crunching some numbers here and it's not adding up. 100%, dude. Well, I hope everyone had a great time listening to us rant about this subject.
Yeah, I know all over the place.
Yeah, I don't know a lot of factual information about this, but I hope we did. I hope we got you a little itch in your brain.
Yeah, at least
something that's gonna.
You don't have to believe us. That's not what we're asking. We just want you to entertain the thought and think about how interesting it would be if the evidence does come through on this.
Yeah, because it's not crazy. We're not asking everyone to believe in ancient aliens. What I'm asking fellow explorers out there in knowledge is to just give it a second thought that maybe things go back a lot longer than we expected.
Yeah.
And maybe humans were passing down great knowledge way before the Younger Dryas events.
I mean, we could have a whole thing on like the Library of Alexandria with all of like the world's knowledge
and how there's probably a secret library hidden underneath the Sphinx paw.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. We can go deep. But anyway, I hope everyone has a fantastic week. I had a great time talking with you tonight, Cody.
Me too. Yeah, I enjoyed it a lot.
I guess there's nothing else to say, but we will catch you on the flip.